a currency beat.
I love it. Whatever it is, it's great.
So you didn't get him next year.
Let me know.
I want Larry June. Can you work on that?
That would be sweet.
Yeah. He's like my celebrity crush. One of them. I also like Neil Tyson deGrasse, the astronomer. Yeah. Was he an astronomer? No, he's like a physicist or something. I don't know. Yeah.
I think astronomer's right. All right, so now we're going live to YouTube, Facebook. So YouTube is up. If you want to share, you can. Otherwise, just do it afterward.
Okay.
All right, we are live to Facebook. Hey, everybody, we'll be starting the show in about 30 seconds. So if you could, please share this out to let people know. And as always, we love it when you guys comment below the show. We'll put your comments through on screen. Might even answer a question. So thank you very much. We'll be starting very shortly.
I'm ready.
Okay.
All right, just give me 30 seconds here, Molly, to get the chat up.
There's so many questions I want to ask you.
Fire them away.
No, I gotta wait. Till we're live.
For sure.
Let me know when I should go, Gabe.
Yep, we'll do. Just a couple seconds. All right. And actually, why don't you just go ahead and take the whole thing away.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. This is Molly the Kush RN with Conversations with Kush podcast, and today I am joined by someone incredible in our community, Josh Wilken-Simon from Legacy Glassworks and from Legacy Cup, Cannabis Cup.
Thank you so much for the kind words, and thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yes,
Excited to be here.
Yeah. So. Tell me, Josh, about the Cannabis Cup. I'm really super excited for it. This is my second year participating.
All right.
Yeah. Last year I did a group with the Minnesota Women's Cannabis Collective, and so I was part of their group. And now this year the podcast will be streaming live from from Legacy Cup, and so I'm super excited.
We're looking forward to having you on the Cup as well.
Thank you. Tell me about the origin of the cup.
Yeah, so I've been to a lot of cannabis events, across the country over the years, and it's back in 2019. It was like I gotta bring something to Minnesota, and of course that was the very early days after the Farm Bill, and so CBD was becoming pretty popular in the state.
Right.
So it's like, okay, we're not quite there. Obviously, we haven't had any type of real legalization. This was still low potency edibles and beverages. But it's like, how can we start a cool cannabis event that we can, like everything, it takes time to get people to hear about it, to build the name, to grow it. So how can we start small, with looking forward to a full adult use and what everything was going to happen. So I started. It was actually originally called the Legacy CBD Cup back in 2019. But then we leaned into the whole cannabis culture, of course. So back then, we still had the biggest dab hit competition, but it was with hemp hash, and we had the joint rolling competition with hemp flower, and
everyone was asleep by the end of the day.
Right. But even that inaugural one, people had so much fun.
Yeah.
And then the feedback that I was getting is just like, this is amazing. There's a beer event every single weekend, summer or winter, all the different beer tastings and those type of events. And obviously there's, bars on every single block, but, I don't like alcohol. A lot of people sharing that with me, and it's like, there's nothing for us to do, and so that was, one of the many reasons why I started, but it was so cool to hear that feedback and be like, thank you so much for, putting on an event like this, because it's just an entire, important segment of our community that hasn't had any type of events and stuff to do.
For sure. Where does the concept of bringing in music and kind of integrating all of the art and whatnot come in? How does that how does that tie in well with cannabis?
Yeah. So it's like we always want to try to present, an overall like package. So, at the core of the cup is the cup competition. High Times kind of pioneered the original like cannabis cup style. When they kind of thought of that concept, originally, like they based their competitions, off all the state fairs where it's, the biggest pumpkin and, the best tasting grapefruit and just, moved that into the cannabis space. Yeah. So obviously we were inspired, by the High Times Cup. So that's kind of at the core of it. But you got to be able to provide the bigger entertainment factor, and then it's just like try to have something for everybody. So if it's somebody that is super into the music side but less into the other parts, that's there for them. If it's someone that is into the consumption side, less the other, that's perfect. And just kind of do this bigger overall package, and then like lean into what kind of is the typical cannabis entertainment space.
Sure. I've heard people say, just do what you do well, like whatever it is, if it's, throwing weddings or, having different events in the community, and then just invite cannabis into that space. But this feels almost specialized, like tell me a little bit more about some of the competitions that you have in the cup.
Yeah, so there's kind of two bigger segments. So the Legacy Cup competition is your classic basically cup. So, this year we have homegrown indoor flower, homegrown outdoor flower. We got solventless hash. We have rosin on like those homegrown categories. And then we have all the categories for our current kind of low potency space. So, best THC gummy, most innovative THC product, best THC soda, and so on. And we still have a couple of the non-intoxicatings, your CBDs, your CBGs, CBNs.
Nice.
So that's kind of, the products that are currently being sold on shelves. So that's kind of one segment is, crowning those winners.
Sure.
And then the other is the ganja games. So that's kind of some just fun day of activities. So we have the joint rolling competition. This year we brought in a speed joint rolling competition. So that's new.
Nice.
Then we have the biggest bong hit competition, biggest dab competition, headiest pipe competition. So yeah, just a bunch of really fun kind of day of, again, just an additional entertainment piece.
Sure. How do you judge that? Like, who can take the biggest bong hit without falling over?
Yeah, so maybe that's where the nurses,
upright at the end of it.
But something like that, we basically, we take a smaller, weight at the beginning, and weigh out,
Okay.
Some flour for everybody. And yeah, the rules are, you have to be able to clear the whole bong.
Okay.
And you can't leave anything left over. And then it kind of just like, it increases from there. So people, get eliminated when they can't clear the whole thing. Gotcha. And yeah, it's fun.
I've definitely been hazed before for not clearing my bowl. This is awesome. I love the celebration of cannabis because, it's so important to so many people and such an integral part of their lives. And it's really medicine. I mean, of course, nurses view it that way, but I know regular everyday users view it that way too. That's their medicine. So thank you for what you're doing by bringing this to to Minnesota and to the Midwest. So tell me about, I could imagine, I know there was like 12,000 people there last year. I'm assuming that you're expecting more this year. Talk to me about some of the challenges of like how you navigate all of that and how you put all these pieces together.
Yeah, it's definitely, I didn't have like major event experience in my background. I didn't come from like, I organized Lollapalooza in 1996, but never had any of that. So definitely, a challenging space. In terms of, events pre-Cup, we've always hosted like glass pipe gallery shows at Legacy Glassworks. And so, some of those have, 300, 400, 500 people, kind of big like art openings. So that was kind of my, initial, step into that space.
How beautiful.
To
honor that artisan craft.
Really fun stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Cup, I guess the nice thing is it's kind of been like slowly increasing. But but definitely, the massive explosion, after full legalization. And then the ability to be able to actually have the consumption element, where people can legally bring their weed, bring their hash, bring their pipes, smoke together. You actually don't even find that in some even more mature, like adult use spaces. So, that's definitely one of the reasons why, we get so many people that are just so excited to be able to come to the event, because it's such a, cool new experience.
Yeah.
So the challenge is, I guess just like everything, it's like, how do we make sure we have enough infrastructure? And then there isn't like necessarily a playbook like there would be for a traditional like alcohol festival.
Sure.
So, for example, last year, something like as simple as like porta potties, we took the tried and true formula for all of these, concerts, events of how many porta potties you would need for X amount of people.
Yeah.
And of course, never a problem to have like overkill, but we did not need anywhere nearly as many porta potties because people aren't drinking alcohol all day.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's also kind of just, this space that's not often traveled, and cannabis insurance for events is incredibly expensive and actually just incredibly hard to find.
Okay.
Because again, there's been a million concerts, a million beer festivals over the years, so they can look and see what is their risk, but they just don't have that with the cannabis consumption side of things. And obviously we want to make sure that we're protected, the venue's protected, the vendors are protected.
Yeah.
So, nothing in life's easy, of course. So lots of challenges. And then, just, of course, on that many people, it's like, how do we make sure we have the best experience for everybody and like meeting people where they're at? Sure. So we have people that, of course, come to the event that, smoke, a gram of good rosin every, afternoon and like, couldn't care less about the current, CBD beverages and THC beverages that are on the market.
Right.
And then we have people that come that have, maybe they smoked many years ago but haven't smoked, and like what they love is a 5 milligram, beverage. And so we try to have, something for everybody and a space for everybody, and not be an event where it's like, oh no, this is the thing, and if you don't do this, you're not cool and not like welcome on the event. So, try to have everything.
Thank you for that, because I feel like it is really important for people to be able to dictate their own relationship with the plant, and there shouldn't be any judgment for how people consume their cannabis, whether it's a lot every day or if it's just in small amounts or whatever it is. Like, cannabis is here to be our friend and to guide us, and it wants us to cooperate and collaborate with each other. So
definitely. And that's one of the reasons why we actually, in terms of the consuming, we have a couple different zones where you can actually, combust. And so, if people, don't necessarily want to be in a haze of smoke, the majority of the festival, will not. And then there's basically the consumption zones.
Awesome. Okay, so it's like a smoking area almost.
Basically,
kind of. Okay, nice. That's cool. So there will be like separate lounges set up for that?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, nice. I love that. Thank you. How did you, we talked a little bit about this offline, but how do you curate the music side of it? Because, you've got some really incredible guests this year, and you had some last year too, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So for better or for worse, I start with like my own musical tastes. And so, we're really excited to have Dessa. Been a fan of Dessa for many, many years. Doomtree, used to go to all the Doomtree blowouts at, First Avenue. And then Dessa is just, such an inspirational woman just on all facets of her life.
For sure.
And just so diverse, being able to do like, a pretty loud, heavy hip hop set and then go play with the orchestra, and then, just like, our goal at the Cup is having a place for everybody. I feel like her music, has a place for everybody too, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then, Looney's, just classic smoker, old school hip hop. Yep. And that's actually going to be going down, over the 420 hour. So that'll be perfect there.
Yeah.
And then, Lupe Fiasco's just been, personal, one of my favorite artists, and I'll never forget seeing him headline one of the sound sets and just watching him up there. And that was actually one of the years where there was a major like storm. And it came in like in the middle of Lupe Fiasco's set, and he had to, tell people like, no, this, like, we actually have to evacuate.
Oh,
man. And Lupe, is just an amazing, individual. But so it kind of starts with that, and then it's just like, trying to cast kind of a wide net because, of course, people are booked, people aren't performing or touring, and then trying to see, what can work within the budget that we have.
Yeah, I love that you keep a lot of local artists on too. Like I
Definitely.
saw Sophia Eris is going to be there spinning, and so yeah, it's really I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Tell me about where is Legacy going to go from here?
Ooh,
it's
good.
only up from here, Josh.
Absolutely. So, as big as it's become, I personally feel like we're really only like scratching the surface of this event.
Awesome.
So, fingers crossed 1 year from now, we'll be able to actually have the cannabis event organizer license through the state of Minnesota.
Indeed.
And what that will allow is for the dispensaries to be at the event, the hash makers, the growers, and being able to sell, your traditional smokable like cannabis at the event.
Yeah.
So that'll level it up. Level up in, many ways from, a better experience for attendees to be able to, in one place, look at all the different strains, buy a bunch of different, products. And then that should, allow us the budget to start bringing in even bigger, acts. I'd love to see a Run the Jewels at a cup in the future, or, even work up to something like a Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
So I really believe that we can bring this to, 30, 40, 50,000 people, 2 days and bring it big. So that's the goal.
I do too. Yeah. I mean, look at what you've accomplished just in 5 years. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Yeah.
And you were off that 1 year for COVID.
Yep.
So to go from, having your CBD festival to now where we are here today, this next upcoming weekend, it's amazing. Just 5 short years and really
Definitely.
4. So, congrats.
Thank you so much.
I was reading through your bio, and you said that in 2009 you started selling your brother's glassworks, and I was like, oh, this guy's been a festival kid.
Absolutely. So Legacy was originally started at Harmony Park back in 2009, Bella Madre Music Festival.
Okay.
And so, I was just started by taking my cousin's pipes and going kind of hand to hand, like campsite to campsite. And like the very first time, it was, how could I pay for my, ticket and, fun for the weekend?
Sure.
And as corny as it sounds, it was literally, spreading happiness by just like going campsite, and, you want to check out my cousin's, glass, and then just like, doing it at a super like fair price, and just how like happy and stoked people were to like see it. And then, in that festival vibe, everybody's, come have a Bloody Mary with us and sit down, come smoke with us. And so, within a couple hours of that festival, like, it was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And I just like, the whole festival was just like forming the business plan in my head.
You found your passion right then and there. That's dope.
I also went with a bunch of friends, to hang out and party all weekend. And they were just like, I was physically with them, but like mentally not there at all because I was making my business plan. And they were just like, what are you doing? Like, are you like here? Are you having a good time?
My manifesto.
And then getting home like late on a Sunday night, after a long like weekend, I went like right to my computer and just started hammering business plans for like 6 hours. And
that's awesome. So. Fast forward to 2010, you open up Legacy Glassworks in Duluth.
Yep.
Why Duluth? Why did you pick there versus here in the cities?
Yeah, so Duluth is, an amazing community. It's definitely a big smoking community. And then it's, a large city, in the top 5 in Minnesota.
Yep.
But it has a very kind of small town feel and vibe still to it. And so my partner, Colleen, had gone to UMD. Okay. And so she had a good kind of network of friends. And she was the original one that was like, hey, there's not really any good glass shops, up here. And everybody smokes. And then kind of looking at the whole landscape of the state, it was like, okay, well, Duluth, we got cheap rent, we got cheap advertising. And it is such a, empowering local and, kind of just a smaller community, even though it's a big city, that I was like, I could start here with no budget. I could start here small, where if I started, and I believe this to the day, that if I had started in 2010, right in the Twin Cities, I wouldn't have made it, just with basically no startup capital. No banks would give me loans.
Right.
And so you're just such a, small fish in a big pond, and just with how expensive everything is.
Brilliant.
My first location in Duluth, 400 square feet, I was paying like $350 a month for rent.
Nice.
So, and just didn't have any employees, just me.
Yeah.
So being able to start small and then start with that word of mouth. So that's what brought me to Duluth. And, the Duluth community has been just so amazing.
Did you get a lot of pushback from like the local authorities or, not legislative bodies, but like the infrastructure around like the business community and whatnot?
Yeah.
Law
So,
enforcement.
and 2010 was a different time. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I had the backdrop too of like selling pipes, which they were sold as tobacco pipes, and so tobacco license and all of that. But during the George W. Bush administration, they actually did Operation Pipe Dreams, where they arrested Tommy Chong for selling bongs, and they arrested some glassblowers in Northern California. And they actually, did this targeted mission, on what they were considering drug paraphernalia.
Gotcha.
So that was the backdrop, of this. So trying to obviously protect myself as much as possible. But the first day I opened my doors in September 2010, we had a Duluth police officer pull up right in front of the shop and just park his car there and stayed the entire day. And, I went out, asked if I could help with anything, waved at him, wouldn't look at me, and just to, parked his car in front of the shop the entire day. And then basically I had no customers because, they would go walk up and it's like, oh, but there's a cop there. So that was the first day. And then, nothing much since then.
Good.
In general, the Duluth, community has been, I guess they've seen how I can do this, responsibly, safely. We've never once had services to anyone underage, never once failed a sting,
right.
And we try to be good partners, in kind of every facet, raising money for the homeless shelter up there and doing community events. And so, at the very beginning, it was, specifically from the law enforcement side, it was a little iffy, but the local politicians have always been great and supportive. And
yeah, I remember I worked as an intern when I first came into the industry here in 2021, I think it was. And we moved into a shop down on 7th Street, right by like the XL where that busy corner is there. And immediately, like within the week after we moved in, there was across the street a big billboard that was like an anti-cannabis billboard.
Really?
And I was like, wow.
That was fast.
Right? It's like, okay, well, I see the vibes.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, it's funny the measures that people will go through to try to kind of intimidate and scare you off from things, but we will not be dissuaded.
Absolutely not.
So, Legacy Glassworks in Minneapolis opened up in 2016, and we have a great new location close to my house in Woodbury. So, congrats on that.
Yeah, we're excited to join the suburbs, and really,
they need it out there.
Definitely. And it was really fun to try to kind of design a elevated kind of suburb style shop.
For sure.
And
It
really
does.
excited
It's a
about it.
very different look. Yeah.
And then, prepping that for the full dispensary space. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited. Tell me a little bit more about like your mission with Legacy Glassworks.
Well, Legacy Glassworks specifically is, to be able to educate folks that glass pipes are a modern art movement.
Absolutely.
And that no matter where you are, if your budget for a glass pipe is $5, you can still get something locally made, supporting a local artist. And, not many people know that 99% of pipes across the United States are made in China, made in India, and they're made by hand. I think a lot of people either don't think about it or assume that there's, a machine somewhere that's like spitting out a glass pipe. They're all made by hand. And unfortunately, they're made by 4, 5, 6-year-olds in China and India. Small hands allow them to, be kind of able to do these smaller like pieces. And then, like those countries do, they're getting paid pennies on the day. Yeah. And so people don't think about, when they're buying a pipe, to be able to consume their cannabis, that they're supporting slave labor, overseas.
Child labor.
Yeah. And so it's like trying to educate on that factor.
Okay.
And, again, there's a spot for everybody from $5 to, $30,000 pipes.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons, we do these glass art gallery shows, to show that this is a modern art movement. And then that's why we try to do as many events as we can where we can do a live glass blowing demonstration, at Twin Cities Pride, all over the state, because it's just a great way to get people, to know that this is an art movement, like Moss to a Flame, you see kind of this like torch and flame, we're like, I got to go check that out.
Yeah, right.
And then we're able to, tell folks kind of what we got going on and educate them. And so the primary mission, of Legacy Glassworks, right now we got 93 Minnesota glass blowers that we have represented in the shops.
Oh, okay.
When I started, there was 7 or 8 serious glass blowers in the entire state.
Wow.
Now we have 93, and I don't even have, all of them.
Yeah.
And so it's to grow this movement. It's right now, even people that are in the Minnesota cannabis space, might not necessarily be able to name, one glass blower. And so it's to try to grow this, and so.
Yeah, I mean, some of the pieces are incredible. They're so beautiful. They're so intricate, the way they're crafted, and I just am like in awe. The way they look, they're beautiful. And I'm one of those people. Like, I'm hoping to really tap into that side of the art and get to know people and have people on the show, because I think I'm a lover of art, and I do consider that to be an art form. So I definitely want to bring that to the audience a little bit more. So thank
Absolutely.
you. Yeah.
And, it plays right into, the craft cannabis side. Of course, there's big multi-state operators,
Right.
that are doing huge grows, and their product is what it is.
Right.
And then, what I'm so excited for in our new, emerging market is all these micro businesses, all these meso businesses, and like getting this craft cannabis.
For sure.
There's going to be people out there that are, growing 20, 30 plants at a time. I'm so excited to see what comes out of that.
Me
and so,
too.
That's an art form, on its own as well.
Yeah,
So.
I think, thank you for saying that. And I think it draws a very nice parallel that just like you should know your grower, you should also maybe know your glass blower.
Definitely.
We
have the support your local glass blower shirts.
For sure.
So.
And that's really important. Some of the craft cannabis I've had, I would choose it any day over, a lot of the Cali plug weed that
Right.
we get, that we've had sourced here in Minnesota. So some of my medicine definitely comes directly from Minnesota growers. So,
Love it.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been super fun to see the how excited all the home growers are for that home grow competition, and to be meeting them as they come in and drop off their samples, and some really cool people. So.
Are you growing at all at home?
I haven't started. I'm embarrassed to say it, but no, I mostly right now it's just a time thing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I absolutely want to.
Yeah.
So.
Nice. Tell me about some of the work that you've done to help get us to where we are now with legalization.
Absolutely. So I actually started back, I believe it was in 2006 or 2007, and I was an organizer for Marijuana Policy Project, MPP, and I just did it as a kind of a volunteer opportunity. And what we did was we organized medical patients to write their state reps, write their state senator, write the governor.
Nice.
To support medical marijuana. So that was before we had, any type of medical.
Right.
So I started way back then organizing.
That was 2014 when you finally got it, right?
That sounds right, yeah.
I think so.
And so, that was obviously many, many years ago. And then since then, I've worked on a lot of, progressive campaigns. I worked on the first Obama campaign in 2008. I took a semester off from school and was an organizer there. And so within the DFL, I was pushing for cannabis legalization to be a part of the DFL platform, which it became eventually. But at the beginning was definitely not something a lot of people were interested in. And then once we elected Governor Walz, that's kind of where I ramped up my serious, cannabis work at the Capitol.
Okay.
So I was the original director of policy and research for MRMR, Minnesotans for Responsible Marijuana Regulation. And that was where, we knew we had a governor that could sign the bill and campaigned on it, and
Right.
said he would. But at that time we had a Republican state Senate. We were optimistic, though, that we could even pass this with the Republican State Senate because the Senate was so close. And, our thought was that we really only needed one or two, members to break, buck the party and vote for it. And we actually had those members, not publicly, but we had those members in private. But the problem was that the Republican majority wouldn't bring it up for a vote. And so that was, kind of where that fell flat. But they had an original hearing, which was kind of in the Senate. Republicans brought it to kind of be like a sham hearing. They had a non-biased, non-biased, non-partisan, quote unquote, like expert. So they had the for legalization and the anti-legalization each were allotted, 15 minutes or 20 minutes to present. And then they had like almost an hour from supposedly this neither side's nonpartisan, non-biased, and it took 3 seconds on Google to find that this guy, is a war on drugs crusader and travels the country like doing this like circuit. And in his presentation, he literally said that people in Colorado post legalization have like jumped off the like roof of a building. I was like, that was actually in the Reefer Madness. Like you're talking about literally the Reefer Madness movie that happened in. So that was really fun. And then kind of, pushed as hard as we possibly could through there. That actually led to a lot of more electoral like work because we knew we needed a Democrat, House Democrat and Senate to be able to pass legalization in Minnesota. Once we got that trifecta, then, kind of all these advocacy groups, Murmur, Normal, a bunch of, merged together. And I was on the board for that. And, then I was, also just kind of, personally lobbying, testifying. Then I was invited by the governor to be there the day he signed the bill, which was an honor.
Yeah.
And then since it's the work's not done, because every year there's going to be a new cannabis bill. And whatever we can do to kind of continue down the path of making sure, our social equity folks in Minnesota are taken care of and really, experiencing the, kind of the whole point of legalization, was to lift them up and take the people that were victims of the war on drugs and make sure that they are able to, be successful operators in Minnesota. And then on that same kind of note is like, how can we make sure this is small craft, small business and not a couple of large multi-state operators that take over?
And how do you think that's going?
I'm cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that I would have liked to see and a lot of people would like to see, but unfortunately we're out of control. For example, HF 100 originally had the residency requirement where anybody operating in the cannabis space had to be a Minnesota resident.
Right.
And I fought, and a lot of people fought really hard for that. The reality that came down from it was there's been multiple lawsuits across the country of other states that have tried this that have all kind of fallen apart on the dormant commerce clause. And, was it worth the risk of delaying any dispensaries, delaying any licensing 3, 4, 5, 7 years as it works its way through the courts?
Right.
There's an argument on both sides of this. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think that it's easy for big money to win. But, right in the final law that passed in HF 100, it says the Office of Cannabis Management must promote a craft cannabis market. And I think that, folks in the OCM right now, folks in the administration are very, eager to try to, be this kind of gold standard across the country.
I was really happy with some of the things that they did, though, this year through legislation. The Caregivers Program, I think, is a beautiful program. I think that definitely promotes craft cannabis. I also liked the restrictions that they lifted on who can prescribe a card to someone and for what conditions. So now it's pretty much wide open. Whoever can prescribe medications can also issue someone a card. They can prescribe it for basically any condition that the patient deems is what their cannabis helps with. So those are big things,
Definitely.
So I'm really happy with that. Just quickly on the legislation piece, what can regular old folks do at home to kind of get involved and become more involved through the legislative process? Of what are some simple, small things they can do?
Absolutely.
To affect change?
So, I think the general public in Minnesota, was very in tune as we were working, through are we going to legalize cannabis or not, and very important issue to so many people.
Yeah.
And people are having their voices heard, which was amazing. I think almost no one in the general public realizes that this will be a continuing ongoing battle
Indeed.
of how can we make sure the core of this legalization, helping those disproportionately impacted by prohibition, remains at that, and how can we make sure that it's, again, promoting small and craft. So we've done, one round of draft rules, which are really important, and they had the public feedback period. But the good news is they'll be basically they're going to take another draft.
Okay.
And then there'll be one more time where actually people can give like their official feedback. So stay in tune from that. And even though it's, reading a lot, kind of reading through how these rules are going to, be in place. And even if you're not ever planning on having your own cannabis business, it is important. Read through them, give the feedback, to the Office of Cannabis Management.
I love the things that they're doing in the community. Like Grounded Gardens used to host deep dives, and
Love
like
it.
Cannabis
Absolutely.
College
Yeah.
gives a lot of education, and kind of really, Canner does a great job of like really breaking it down so that people can understand it and digest it. So I'm really excited to see more things like that, and I think that will help people understand. Again, what you said, we have to kind of meet people where they're at.
Yeah.
They might be overwhelmed by all that jargon, that legal jargon, but if we can kind of break it down for them and be like, okay, well, this is what this actually means. People are like, oh shit, that's what that means. And then we can kind of get on board or get behind it. So. Lastly, I just want to talk about your own personal relationship with cannabis. What's it like?
For sure. So I originally started smoking in high school. Just something fun to do,
Right.
I guess. And so, I've been a daily smoker, since then. Currently, I'm on the kind of zone of like, get all my work done, during the day and smoke, at night.
Okay.
In college, I remember doing the classic. I don't know how some of my friends could do their homework like high, but that was definitely not me. So I would, when I was like really, struggling on the paper, on the like studying for the test, I would like, take, put it in one of my favorite nugs, grind it up, pack it in a nice clean bowl, and then like set it like in top of it and be like, I'm gonna smoke you in like 1 hour, and like, oh, should I quit now? No, like,
So tempting.
so. Yeah, and then I personally really like flower. I really like rosin, just with getting so much more taste out of it.
Yeah.
I of course try and enjoy all the edibles, but edibles and beverages and just the way your body processes, for me, it's just not as fun of a like high. And actually, like the only times I've ever felt that kind of like anxiety, paranoia, for me have always been on the edible side of things.
Okay.
And so that's kind of a bummer because I want it to be on, be able to enjoy it. And I do, eat edibles all the time too, especially for, research purposes for the stores.
Only research.
But, it's funny too, like, I have to kind of like be conscious of it on the edible side of things to be like, oh, I ate a bunch of like edibles. Like I got to go smoke some hash because I don't like, I got to make sure my high is like more in my like comfort zone and not just like an edible high.
Yeah. That's funny because I'm such a consumables person.
Yeah.
Like that's how I started off when I rediscovered my relationship with cannabis. I started with edibles. And so like, I'm so used to like the consumable high. So that's really comfortable for me.
Yeah.
And when I smoke flower, sometimes if I smoke too much or too fast or whatever it is, I'll get a little paranoid. But I like that combo, like that ratio medication. And again, that's why craft cannabis is so very important. We need to be able to develop those other chemovars so that people can really get to the medicine that's right for them. So. And
it's wild just how everybody's body is so different.
Yeah.
Like for me, like edible wise, like 10, 15, 20 milligrams is like perfect. But like a lot of my, like staff, like they won't even get high till 150, 200 milligrams. And I'm like, I'm checking myself into like an inpatient treatment at that level. Like, so, and yeah, it's just everybody's body's, process is so different. It's wild.
For sure. Well, that's pretty much all I have. Do you have any other final thoughts that you want to talk about tell my audience? Or
no, I just want to give you a big shout out. I appreciate, I know it's hard kind of doing any type of startup, and appreciate what you're doing for the community.
Thank
and like
you.
Bringing a wide range of voices.
Yeah.
And as many cool podcasts and cool events and stuff, that's what we need as a community. So thank you for being one of the pioneers in this space.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So that's it for today's show. Thank you so much much. Tune in to Conversations with Kush. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Tune in to tell my audience where they can find you.
Yeah, so Legacy Cup this Saturday, September 14th, and actually we're doing on Friday we're doing an industry night party. So for folks that are in the current space, want to join the space, want to open a dispensary, great place to meet people and meet some good kind of like connections on professional services that you'll need on that. So that's gonna be a party that's bring your own cannabis, can smoke as well. It's out back of Surly. So yep, Cup on Saturday. The website on that is legacycupmn.com. Instagram, same thing, legacycupmn.
Okay.
Definitely give a follow there. And then, we're Legacy Glassworks in Minneapolis, and that's the handle there on Instagram, just at Legacy Glassworks. And then my Duluth location, my Woodbury location is Legacy Cannabis.
Okay.
And so that's legacycannabismn.com and Legacy Cannabis MN on Instagram.
Awesome. And we'll get all those links on the broadcast too. So, yeah, thank you, Josh,
Thank
for
you.
being here. I really
Yeah.
appreciate your time.
Good times.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Getting warmed up now. Great job.
Thank you.